Okay, this is Jockeys from Straight Razor Place, and this is my honing tutorial. Over there we see a freshly pasted strop I'm going to be using later on in the stropping tutorial, a rag or paper towel, and a variety of sharpening stones, a razor, and some black electrical tape. Let's get started. Okay, the razor I'm sharpening today is a Dovo stainless steel 5/8 round point. Pretty unremarkable razor really, except that it's stainless and therefore a pain in the neck to sharpen. I have a variety of stones here. This is my DMT 325. I'm not going to be using this today. This is more of a stone that I use for either flattening my other stones, which I've already done, or for taking out really bad chips, or correcting a frown or smile on a razor. But anyway, way too coarse. This is in pretty good shape, so we're not going to fool with this today. Next I have a Swati, Franz Swati barber hone. You can see here it's a 3-line hone, meaning it's slightly finer. This is the subject of much ill will on Straight Razor Place, but it's actually a pretty good stone. This is a Colonel Ichabod Conk barber hone. It's not a barber hone. It's actually like a 3000 grit Arkansas oil stone, but I use it with water. And as long as you keep in mind that it's only 3000 grit, it's a good stone. Kind of small. Here, soaking in water, is pretty much a generic Japanese water stone. This side is 1200 grit. I use that for setting the bevel. This side is 8000, which I use for polishing. So, to begin with, we will be starting at 1200 today. The razor probably doesn't need it, but just to quickly demonstrate how to set a bevel. Alright. Make sure the stone's nice and wet. Now what you're going to do is just lay the spine of the razor flat on the stone and just sort of gently rotate it down until the edge is touching. Now with this stone it's a little bit rough, so I'm going to use just a tiny bit of pressure, not much more weight than the weight of the razor itself. Then I'm going to rotate over, and there we go. And just back and forth here, just to clean up my edge. You'll notice I'm rolling over along the spine and not along the edge. That will completely destroy your razor. So just a couple of quick passes here. Let's see how we're doing. Okay. Well, the bevel's ready for the next step. No surprise, it was probably already ready for that. So this guy goes back in the bath. Water stones typically have to be kept very wet or soaked in order to function properly and not get really clogged up. So I just kind of keep mine in a little pan here. Now even though this is an oil stone, I'm using it with water and it works just fine so long as you've never put oil on it. Once you put oil on it, you're pretty much stuck with oil. You're never going back. So just get this nice and wet. Now I'll be using the same X pattern. Even though this other hone down here is wide enough to do a straight pass and get the entire length of the blade, you'll notice I was doing a diagonal motion. The entire point of that is so that you're not sharpening straight on. No matter how smooth you make the edge of the razor, under enough magnification it will look like the edge of a steak knife. It'll be serrated. So by moving slightly this way, basically what you're doing is sharpening the edges of those serrations. Now we want to make those serrations small enough that it will still cleanly cut hair. I mean, we're talking on the order of, millionths of an inch here, but, well, maybe tens of thousands, but very, very small anyway. No, probably millions. I don't know. Anyway, so same thing here. This is a finer stone, so I'm going to get lighter. The lighter the stone, the lighter the touch, till on the very finest stones like the barber hone, we're not even using the weighted razor. It's just extremely light. So I'm just going to do some passes here. Sorry, it's a little bit difficult for me to hone at this angle. I'm really unaccustomed to doing that way. Anyway, basically all this stage does is clean up the marks I made on the blade, the really rough jagged marks from the 1200 grit stone when I set the bevel, even though this one didn't really need a bevel set. But anyway, the exact number of strokes is highly debated on whether you should use pyramids or just high to low, or, I mean, there's an infinite number of ways to do it. You ask 7 people, you're probably going to get 8 ways of doing it. So clean this up with my rag here. Let's see how we're doing. Really, probably the trickiest part of honing is not the motion of the blade against the hone. That is extremely simple. The angle is easy to get because you just lay it flat. It's not like a knife where you have to have the angle just so. Really, the trickiest part of honing I've found is the experience of learning exactly how a razor should feel before it's ready to go to the next hone. This one is not quite there. Another couple of quick passes. Oh yeah, okay, we're good and ready. Now at this point the razor is sharp enough to shave with. I don't recommend you do it. It's not smooth yet, but it is very sharp. In fact, if you'll notice here, I can quite easily remove hair, a lot of hair, from my arm without having to use any pressure at all, very light. Now it is kind of gritty feeling and it does pull a bit because as sharp as the razor is now compared to a cutting implement like a knife, and it is, by straight razor standards it's still not terribly sharp. So now we move to the big boy, the 8000 grit Japanese water stone. Now on this stone, no pressure, very very light touch. I know I say that all the time in just about all of my videos, but I mean this is a delicate thing. If you bear down on it at all, you're probably going to screw the edge up. So with that in mind, same thing, you'll notice I'm starting with the heel closest to this side and just moving along. Even though you think that would actually get less of the blade, it does make it sharper. Kind of counterintuitive, but there you have it. Okay. There we go. At this point I should note that this is not a speed contest. You don't need to do it fast like you see barbers doing it in a movie. That's possible, I guess, if you're good enough, but I don't recommend it. Probably the most important thing here, other than a light touch, is keeping the blade flat on the hone. Like on the spine there, kind of like that. If you lift up at all, tilt even just the tiniest bit, you'll be hitting just one point on the blade instead of the whole thing. And that'll cause you to unevenly wear parts of the blade and then make the edge not as straight as it should be. And not in a easy to sharpen way like a smiley blade, but rather you'll have kind of a wavy blade, and then that is a huge pain to repair. So you want to avoid that. Keep it nice and flat, go slow, keep your pressure light.